夢の国を探す君の名を誰もが心に刻むまで悲しみ乗り越えた微笑みに君を信じていいですか
Hello and welcome back. Thanks for joining. My name is Berit and today I will continue talking about Hoshin Engi because I'm still not done with how much I like it. Today we have another plot related video and this time I'm gonna talk about circa volumes 4 through 12, so pretty much until the middle of the story. I am now in volume 14, so I'm also not yet done reading it. And just a general spoiler warning, everything that I will talk about here will be a spoiler for everything from circa volume 3, so basically I'm just spoilering away now. Let's pick up where we left off. Taikobo has now learned more about the true nature of the Hoshin project. In the meantime, Ducky has invited the 4 great feudal lords of the regions around the capital to a great banquet, but it turns out that she actually wants to kill the 4 lords to weaken those regions and to strengthen Choka's position. And one of the lords that she invites is Shoki, who I have mentioned in the last video very briefly, who is the lord of Seiki, which is the region where Taikobo goes to. And Shoki openly criticizes Ducky and he therefore is meant to be killed. She wants to execute him, but Shoki is rescued in the last minute by Hiko. And then instead he's held hostage in Choka for 7 years, and all this time Shoki's eldest son, Hakuyuko, he's taking care of Seiki for him because Shoki told him to before leaving, because he kind of had a hunch that there's something not right with the invitation to the banquet. However, Hakuyuko starts to wonder what happened to his father because he kind of doesn't return for several years. And he starts to investigate and he goes to Choka, although Shoki told his son to absolutely not do that no matter what happens. Hakuyuko is of course killed by Ducky for coming to Choka and wanting to investigate the situation. And what is more, Ducky makes about the most brutal thing that has happened in this manga so far, and I guess it's probably the most brutal thing that will happen. She makes Hakuyuko into hamburgers, which she then serves to Shoki. So she's kind of going ancient Greek on Hakuyuko and Shoki. Another important thing that happens early on, which I have also briefly mentioned in the last video, is that Hiko leaves Choka and becomes the emperor's enemy. Because Hiko's sister, she's one of the many queens of the emperor, and one day she gets a visit from her sister-in-law, so from Hiko's wife. However, Ducky plots it so that the emperor meets Hiko's wife, of course, and since the emperor is a notorious womanizer, he of course harasses her, which then brings Hiko's wife to commit suicide to protect herself, her honor, and also Hiko's honor. And the situation leads to Hiko's sister also killing herself, because she then wants to set Hiko free from his ties to the imperial court, because she knows he's partly there and he's partly loyal because his sister is one of the emperor's queens. So Hiko of course realizes that the death of his sister and his wife have to do with Ducky's scheming, and he then turns against Yin because of that and against the emperor, and goes to join Taikobo and Seiki with his whole clan. The journey is of course long and difficult, and on the way the clan meets several enemies who try to kill them. And at some point on this journey, Hiko's eldest son Tenka, who is a doshi from Kongrong and also one of my favorite characters in the whole manga, he joins his father. Meanwhile in Seiki, Taikobo makes new allies, and both Yosen and Nataku, who we've met before, they rejoin Taikobo now, and they go to meet Hiko and his clan on their way to Seiki. Not long after they have met on the way to Seiki, they are attacked by a group of 4 people from the Kingo Islands who are called the Shisei, and they were sent to kill Hiko and his clan. And the person who sent the Shisei to kill Hiko and his clan was Buncho, who is the emperor's kind of advisor and tutor. And he's very interesting because he is one of the strongest Sennin from Kingo Islands now, but he was actually born without the Sennin Kotsu, so without this special bone structure that you kind of need to have to become a Sennin. And he's especially loyal to Yin because he has been protecting this kingdom for over 1,000 years now, since he was 16. And 1,000 years ago, when he was still human, he protected Yin together with a partner, and his partner, she became the second queen of the emperor at that time. And Buncho kind of couldn't cope with losing his fighting partner, so he kind of tortured himself with training, so much so that he basically, his body began to rot, and at this point he started to develop the Sennin Kotsu, so he kind of tricked the mechanism unconsciously because he didn't know that this would happen. And then he became a Doshi on Kingo Islands and later a Sennin, and he has been protecting Yin ever since. He's also the former best friend of Hiko. They were kind of like brothers up until the point that Hiko turns against Choka, which of course happens when Buncho is not around. Buncho also has a reiju called Kokukirin, which kind of looks like a large insect, if you ask me. And yeah, as I said, he's kind of from Kingo Island, but he's not really a part of the Kingo Island gang, so to say. But he's also not an enemy of them, so he's kind of, yeah, not really part of Kingo, but also not really against Kingo or something. He also hates Ducky very much and he wants to protect Yin from her, but he's also Taikobo's enemy because Buncho is still loyal to Yin. So he's kind of between a rock and a hard place, you could say, because he hates Ducky but he's loyal to Yin. And Taikobo also hates Ducky, but Taikobo has also turned against Yin, so Buncho is therefore Taikobo's enemy. So not the easiest relationship here. So yeah, Buncho and Hiko are kind of BFFs turned enemies, which is very tragic if you ask me. And Buncho is pretty serious about having Hiko killed, which is why he sends people to do that, but he also doesn't want any humans to be dragged into this, and he also doesn't want Ducky to kill Hiko. He kind of wants to do this himself. The Shisei, this group that Buncho sent to do the killing, they disobey him and they drag the humans into this, killing a lot of people. And Taikobo and his group, they also have the problem that they cannot really defeat them, and the fight is much more difficult for them because they don't want to harm humans, while the Shisei kind of ditch that thought and just go berserk on the whole region. But Buncho hears about this situation, so he decides to go to Seiki, and he pretty much just crushes everybody, apart from his own people, of course, to put an end to the situation that has kind of gotten out of control. After the fight, everybody in Taikobo's group is pretty heavily injured, but at least no one died. None of the main characters. There are a lot of humans who died in the battle. And Taikobo is now assigned the position of Gunshi, which is the military tactician of Seiki. So he is assigned the task to plan the fight for Seiki's army against Choka's army. And Hiko is again made the Busayo, so the chief commanding officer, which is the same position that he also had in Yin before. In the meantime, we also learn more about Ducky's backstory and how she came to possess the body of one of Emperor Chu's queens. The thing is, Ducky is, as I think I've mentioned, one of the strongest Senin from Kingo Island, but she's severed all ties with Kingo Island, so they're kind of not friends anymore. It turns out in her backstory that she has also bewitched several emperors before Emperor Chu, but she kind of disappears throughout history, which is because she can only possess a body for a certain amount of time. So after, I don't know, I think it's around 100 years, she has to find a new body to possess. So that's why she kind of disappears sometimes. We learn about her backstory while Ducky is on her way to retrieve Okijin, her sister, and turn her from a stone lute back into a human. In Seiki, Lord Shoki has returned, but he's becoming weaker and weaker because he has some pretty serious PTSD after getting his son served as a hamburger, and he kind of doesn't want to eat at all anymore now, which I feel is kind of understandable given his recent experiences with hamburgers. So Taikobo meets Shoki's eldest son, Hatsuki, who will become Lord of Seiki after Shoki. And Hatsuki first appears as a womanizer, not necessarily a very successful one. And he, much like Taikobo, actually appears to not want to have too much responsibility. But he will eventually grow up in that respect. As a next step, Taikobo wants to make the northern region Sujo an ally of Seiki, but the current leader of Sujo is hesitant at first because he thinks that his older brother is also held hostage by Ducky, one of the great feudal lords. His older brother is actually dead, so yeah, but he doesn't know that in the beginning, so he kind of doesn't want to he doesn't want to become Seiki's ally because he thinks that then his brother will die. In the end, it needs the commitment of Shoki, who's actually kind of too weak to travel to the northern region, but he does anyway. It needs his commitment to make Sujo Seiki's ally, and this action that Shoki takes here, it kind of takes his last energy, and Shoki dies very shortly after that, and then Hatsuki, the eldest son, he becomes the new Lord of Seiki, and he's then declared King Bu, and Seiki is declared the kingdom Ju. But of course, Taikobo and his people are attacked again, this time from a group of brothers called the Maka Yonsho. They are also 4, I think. And they were directly ordered from the Lord of the Kingo Islands to go and defeat Taikobo. The reasoning behind that is that Taikobo has also gotten help from the Senin world, from Kongrong Mountains, so they're like, well, then we can also send some people to kind of defeat Taikobo. And this is another very long and very tough fight for Taikobo, Nataku, Yosen, Hiko and Tenka, I think, but they defeat the Maka Yonsho eventually because of the situation that Taikobo kind of doesn't die. There is a new guest who arrives at Choka, and it is Chokomei. He is sent to the human world by the chief of Kingo Island, and he tells Buncho that Buncho now has the competence to command everyone at Kingo Island to defeat Taikobo and Kongrong Mountains, because Kingo Islands and Kongrong Mountain, they are rivals. And although Buncho immediately pretty much tells Chokomei to leave again, he ends up hanging out a while with Ducky because the two are friends, and I will talk a lot more about Chokomei in the next video because he will be very important at that point. Hatsuki, turned King Bu, now learns to grow into the new role as the leader of the new kingdom, and they start to prepare for war. Taikobo also takes a trip into the Sennin world to get a new, stronger Paopei, and while he doesn't get a new Paopei, his Dashinben, his extendable stick, gets an upgrade, so it's stronger now. And in Choka they're of course also preparing for battle. Buncho now decides to go to Kingo Island himself because he has been waiting for the kind of elite Sennin from Kingo Islands to come and help him, and they haven't arrived, so he kind of decides to go there to investigate. And he does that because he cannot defeat Kongrong Mountains without their help. It turns out that the elite Sennin from Kingo Island, their group name is, by the way, the Yuten-kun. They deceived him and they kind of don't want to be under his order, so they capture him on Kingo Island in an alternate dimension they have, and Buncho disappears for several months. And the thing is that this alternate dimension that the Yuten-kun have, that is kind of their Paopei. So their Paopei isn't a weapon, but it's actually kind of room where you can create a dimension, and you can basically create it in any way that you want it. And it's almost impossible like to get out, or it's very difficult to get out of there, because how would you get out of your dimension? So now finally, because Kingdom Zhou and Kingdom Yin, they have been preparing for battle, and now it's finally time for the first battle of the two armies. And shortly before this battle, the two princes, the sons of Emperor Chu, they return to the scene. They have been in Choka in the beginning, and then Hiko sent him away to Taikobo to rescue them from Ducky. And they have actually gone into the Sennin world to train there. But the thing is, when they come back, the crown prince kind of changes sides and ends up commanding the army of Choka, the army of his father. Because after being rescued from Choka and sent to the Sennin world to train, Shinkoyo, he interferes again and kind of convinces the eldest prince, at least, to secretly remain loyal to his father, because he will be the next emperor after his father's death. So he convinces him to stay loyal to Yin and stay loyal to his father. So when they come back, the older prince decides to join his father's army. The younger brother, he doesn't want to accept that. He also didn't know that his older brother stayed loyal to his father. And he tries to persuade him to be on Taikobo's side. The army of Yin eventually loses the battle, and both of the princes actually end up dying. The thing is that the younger brother actually sacrifices himself to save Taikobo from being killed by the older brother. And Taikobo also ends up losing his left arm in the battle, which is also his strong arm, which I basically just mentioned because that means he's a lefty, just like me. Thumbs up for all left-handed people, I guess. I will make a cut here because I think otherwise the video will be too long. We have actually not gotten up to volume 12. I think we are in volume 10, circa. So the next video will be about more of the middle of the story. It will get more confusing. It will get very fabulous in the next step of the plot. I hope again that this was not too confusing for you. Let me know what you think about this journey through Hoshin Engi. I'm still enjoying myself a lot reading it and talking about it. And yeah, maybe I'll see you in the next video. Bye.